Do you struggle with accuracy and recoil control in your shooting? If so, you've come to the right place. What's up, guys? My name is Rob Epifania. I'm a USPSA Grandmaster and the owner of Systematic Performance Concepts. In this video, I'm going to give you 2 tips to get better accuracy and better recoil control. Let's talk about the first thing. Common thing that I see in people when it comes to recoil control, and it indirectly affects accuracy, is their wrist isn't stiff. It's not stiff enough. So what you guys will typically see here is you'll typically see maybe the gun is moving in the hand, not moving in the hand. So you can see here, if I'm pushing on the muzzle end of this, you'll see the gun is not moving in the hand. But look at the wrist here. See how the wrist is moving? You have that wrist crease kind of breaking right there. That's a common problem when it comes to recoil control. And anytime you feel that you're not managing recoil very well, you're automatically going to compensate by trying to tighten this firing hand and push down with it because it is directly connected to the gun. So right here, thing that we want to focus on is we want to be able to lock the wrist in place. And how we do that is, for me personally, I apply ring and pinky pressure here versus entire finger pressure. So I'm not thinking about doing this, I'm thinking about doing this. Angling my wrist down, applying a little bit more pressure with the ring and pinky. What that does is you'll see here, when I apply that little pressure here, doesn't have to be much either. This locks in place, and then when we're pushing on the gun, everything moves as one. Now, why the ring and pinky? This is what I found. So typically speaking, what people will say is we're not meant to independently move this finger outside of the hand. So we have to teach ourselves that. Yes, that's true. However, if you go a little further into it, you guys can try this exercise with me here. If I move my pinky, I can keep my index finger relatively still. If I move my ring finger, it stays reasonably still without affecting it very much. However, if I move my middle finger, it's very hard for me to keep this still. You can see it moving. You guys can try that at home too. You guys are going to notice the same thing. So the middle finger is the one that affects the trigger finger the most. And if you guys have ever had trigger freeze, that is a symptom of the firing hand getting too tight, specifically this finger. This locks up too much. The hand, the trigger finger actually gets locked in place in the joint. So keep an eye on that. I can grip as hard as I want here with my ring and pinky finger. I still have full movement of my hand. When I start gripping a little harder with all the fingers, it starts to tense up. You can kind of see that there. I could feel it. Okay. So that's the reason for ring and pinky pressure, and that's why we get affected. That's what affects us the most, the middle finger. Okay. Now, second tip, when it comes to trigger control and the path of movement for your finger, we want to make sure we're pressing the trigger straight. Our finger path is in a way that we end up with as straight of a press as possible. Any side to side movement while you're pressing the trigger can only move straight. However, when you hit the back of travel, where you have no more room to go, that angle is going to start to push on the gun one way or the other. So we want to get as straight as we can. Some people will press the trigger in a manner that they're allowing their base joint to move. So what I tell them there is, if you could take the pad of your finger and try to touch it to the base joint, it starts to lock this in place and keep it more still. Another way I've heard it explained to me was, think about a backward 7 and you're trying to trace that diagonal of it. Both of those work really well, especially in single-handed shooting. Huge improvement when you start to apply this concept. Whenever you're practicing trigger control exercises, pay attention to where the gun is going, right? And if you want to adjust your finger on the trigger, fine. If you're for a right-handed shooter, if you're pushing to the left, you can add a little more finger on the trigger. For a left-handed shooter, for a right-handed shooter, if you're pushing right, you can think you're maybe hooking it and pull it a little less. Okay, so I don't subscribe to one part of the finger goes on every single trigger, because every gun is different, every person is different. But by taking that little information and making it work for you and your firearm, it's going to improve your results dramatically and increase your awareness. So guys, 2 quick tips on better accuracy and recoil control. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, and comment. And any questions you guys have, feel free to let me know. Thanks for watching.